You've spent decades thinking you were in charge, haven't you? Planning, hustling, convincing yourself that if you just tried harder, pushed longer, worked smarter, everything would bend to your will. And now you realize how little of it was ever yours to control. The people you counted on failed you. The world changed around you while you were busy proving something to someone else. Your body betrays you, time doesn't pause, and suddenly the illusion of control shatters, leaving you staring at a life that feels like it slipped through your fingers. Here's the truth: no one owes you understanding, cooperation, or loyalty. Expecting it is the trap that has kept you chained to frustration. You cannot stop loss, decay, disappointment, or the slow drift of time. What you can do, what has always been in your grasp, is how you respond. Discipline is your weapon. Responsibility is your anchor. Every choice, every action, every refusal to be passive defines the space in which you still have power. You might think it's unfair, that life is too harsh, that the world should bend for you. That is weakness masquerading as insight. Stop looking outward for validation and control. Stop bargaining with reality for ease and comfort. Face the fact that every regret you feel, every opportunity missed, every relationship strained, comes from how you handled or refused to handle the control you actually possessed. Aging strips away illusions, and when it does, you finally see the only control that matters: your mind, your discipline, your integrity. Nothing else is guaranteed. You can scream at the world or collapse under its weight, or you can stand, fully aware that control was never about circumstances, but about how ruthlessly you wield yourself within them. The moment you accept this, the moment you stop blaming, you become impossible to defeat. The illusion of control is one of the most persistent traps we carry through life. From youth, you are taught to plan, to prepare, to strategize as if every outcome depended on your efforts alone. You convince yourself that if you work harder, speak louder, or persuade more effectively, you can bend events and people to your will. And for a while this works, or at least it feels like it works. You see results, you accumulate power, you achieve milestones, and the illusion strengthens. But life has a way of exposing this belief when it counts the most. Jobs are lost, relationships falter, health declines, and circumstances shift beyond your influence. The world does not operate according to your plans, and the sense of control you once clung to begins to crumble. This is the point where most people panic. They fight harder, push longer, and demand more from life, trying to force compliance from forces that are indifferent to effort. They feel betrayed by reality itself, blaming time, chance, or others for the gap between expectation and outcome. The older you get, the more brutal the lesson becomes. Control is never as extensive as we imagine. Understanding the difference between illusion and reality is not defeat. It is clarity. Real power does not come from manipulating the world, but from mastering your own responses. It comes from recognizing that while you cannot command outcomes, you can command your choices, your focus, your discipline, and your integrity. Every moment spent chasing the impossible control of circumstances is energy wasted. Every decision made with awareness of what you can actually influence compounds into strength and resilience. Learning to live within this boundary is the first step toward freedom, because freedom is not bending the world to your will. It is bending yourself to the truth of the world and acting decisively within it. How you respond to loss, decay, and disappointment defines the measure of your life. Aging is the harsh teacher that strips away certainty and exposes every weak point you've ignored. You lose people you thought would always be there, opportunities you counted on, and the physical and mental vitality that once seemed limitless. At first it feels unfair, like the world is punishing you for no reason. You may find yourself replaying choices, wondering what you could have done differently, or blaming others for the circumstances that now feel beyond repair. This is where most people stumble, letting frustration and bitterness dictate their actions. The truth is that loss and disappointment are inevitable, unavoidable components of existence. No amount of effort can prevent decline, nor can any amount of planning guarantee outcomes. What remains entirely within your control is how you face these realities, how you choose to respond in the moments when everything seems to slip away. You can succumb to anger, resentment, or despair, letting them corrode your character, or you can accept the situation, assess the options still available, and act decisively within the scope of your influence. Every disappointment carries with it a test of resilience. Aging does not strip you of all power, it strips away illusions and exposes the kernel of agency that has always been yours. The ability to act with discipline, focus, and self-honesty even when the external world seems indifferent. Your responses define whether regret becomes a constant companion or a tool for refinement. The older you get, the more acute this lesson becomes, because the margin for wasted effort grows smaller and the consequences of inaction become heavier. Understanding that your reactions are the true source of power changes everything. When you accept that life's chaos is unavoidable, your responsibility shifts from controlling events to mastering your choices. In this shift, disappointment stops being a punishment and becomes a mirror, revealing your capacity for resilience, clarity, and deliberate action. Protecting your inner life becomes essential as you grow older, because it is the only part of your existence that remains truly yours. Over the years, you've witnessed how easily your thoughts, feelings, and vulnerabilities can be used against you, misunderstood, or dismissed. Friends, family, colleagues, they all interpret your words through their own biases, often failing to grasp the depth of what you experience. Without careful boundaries, every conversation can drain you, every interaction can chip away at your clarity, and every attempt to justify yourself can feel like an erosion of your dignity. An older man learns to safeguard this inner realm through deliberate silence and selective engagement. He speaks only when it matters and with those capable of holding his words with respect. By doing so, he preserves energy, avoids unnecessary conflict, and maintains the clarity that life's challenges demand. Boundaries are not walls built to isolate. They are shields that protect the fragile space where reflection, growth, and self-understanding take place. This protection also allows him to act from a place of integrity rather than reaction. When his inner life is secure, he is less swayed by criticism, less dependent on validation, and less vulnerable to emotional exhaustion. In choosing carefully where to invest his attention and words, he cultivates resilience and depth. Silence becomes not emptiness, but a deliberate vessel for preserving what is sacred and essential in himself. Living your values instead of constantly explaining them is a lesson that comes with age, often after years of frustration and wasted effort. You realize that no matter how eloquently you justify yourself, how carefully you argue your point, or how often you clarify your intentions, people will still misinterpret, dismiss, or oppose you. Words can be twisted, overlooked, or forgotten, but actions leave a permanent mark. When you choose to live your values, your integrity becomes visible not through persuasion, but through consistency, discipline, and the quiet demonstration of your principles. An older man understands that every decision, every habit, every choice he makes is a reflection of what he truly stands for. Explaining himself repeatedly only dilutes that reflection and distracts from the work of living intentionally. When values are embodied, they communicate more than words ever could. People may disagree, misunderstand, or even resent the boundaries and standards you maintain, but they cannot dispute the evidence of your life. This approach also cultivates strength and freedom. You are no longer dependent on approval, applause, or recognition. You act because it is necessary, right, or aligned with your principles, not because someone else will witness, validate, or reward it. Over time, this disciplined embodiment of your values becomes your legacy, your unspoken authority, and your most enduring form of control over yourself and your life. Choosing peace over validation is one of the hardest lessons life teaches as you grow older. Yet it is the most essential. For decades, you may have measured your worth by how others saw you, how they praised you, or how they approved of your decisions. Every argument, every explanation, every desperate attempt to convince someone of your perspective has come at a cost. You expend energy, time, and emotional clarity on outcomes you cannot control, and often the result is disappointment, resentment, or exhaustion. The older you get, the clearer it becomes that seeking validation is a trap, a constant surrender of your autonomy to the expectations of others. Peace, by contrast, comes from choosing your battles and recognizing where influence is real and where it is illusionary. It is the ability to stand firm in your truth without demanding recognition. When you prioritize inner calm over external approval, every action becomes intentional rather than performative. You respond to life rather than react to it, and your energy is preserved for what truly matters. This choice also transforms relationships and interactions. People notice steadiness, even if they do not understand it, and respect is granted naturally rather than requested. By letting go of the need to be acknowledged, you reclaim authority over your mind, your emotions, and your time. Peace becomes a form of control, a shield against chaos, and a declaration that your life is defined by your standards, not the approval of others.